Whoop, messed up my slides again. That wouldn't be the first time. All right. Welcome again to everybody. I know there's still looks like a couple people are shuffling in, but for those who were punctual, I certainly don't want to have you continue to wait. Right before I came on, I went and I looked at the email list of everyone that had registered, and it's just so exciting because it looks again like we have participants, or at least those who registered from all over the world. So if you're here today and you're joining us from the West Coast, good morning to you. If you're an East Coaster like me, definitely want to wish you good afternoon. And certainly a special thank you to the others from wherever around the world you might be joining us from. It's great having everybody here. Again, I'm so excited. It's humbling to have people interested, so many people interested in learning about social skills, and so many people want to hear about what they can do to enhance social skills in either their lives or a loved one's life or a child or a student's life. As you're aware, this is the second part of our two-part webinar on stepping up your game when it comes to social skills. As we've been doing, this has been working the last several webinars. We're going to hold off on any of the questions for now. If you do have a question, there's a little hand feature in the bottom of your screen. Just click on that to raise your hand, but I'm not going to answer any of those questions until the very end. We found that the webinars flow a lot better when we hold off on the questions. And if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand, if you raise your hand and I click on you, you'll be able to ask your question so that everybody listening will be able to hear you if you don't feel comfortable with that. The Q&A feature at the bottom of your screen is enabled. If you want to type in your question, I would be happy to respond to it that way. But like I said, I'm going to be holding off on the answers until the very end of the webinar. The webinar should be about 45 minutes or so today. For those of you that have never heard me present before or heard one of my webinars, I'm Dr. Christopher Haley. I'm the owner of a private practice called the Social Skills Center. I'm proud to have 3 office locations up here in the Northern Virginia area. We're just outside our nation's capital. For the last 20, well, it's actually, it's over 20 years now. For the last 20 plus years, I've been teaching social skills to children, adolescents, and adults. I've done so in an individual or one-on-one therapy format. I've done many, many groups over the last 20 years, including I facilitate people like, you do this? I really do. I facilitate 12 social skills groups every single week. I already did it this week using my one-of-a-kind peer process model that I formulated several years ago. Since coronavirus, unfortunately, has taken over, and this pandemic has consumed us since March, we've taken our sessions and we've expanded them online, and we had such success with our online individual program and our group program. We've expanded our services, and now you can see from the first slide, we're coaching worldwide. So if you have a computer and you have internet access, regardless of where you might live or where you're viewing us from today, we can help you. I believe the key component to success in life, in your life, in your child's life, in your student's life, if you're a teacher or an educator, is the ability to connect with others. And how we do that? Great social skills. And that's how we do it. Now, parents have a tendency to cringe when I say this, but I say this regularly. Most parents overvalue the importance of school grades. It's all about getting straight A's, go to college, get that 4.0, get a great job. Yeah, it's true, a piece of it. The reality is I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't do well in school. I have my doctorate diploma right behind me. So school is important and grades are important, but I stand by this statement. Many, many high school graduates are more successful than Harvard graduates. I'll say it again. I know many high school graduates that are more successful than Harvard graduates. Why? I'm sure you know where I'm going with this. They're great with people. They know how to communicate. They're exceptional listeners. We'll get to that one in a second. They possess this ability to connect and network with others in their community and in their industry. And that's exactly what my associate Scott Miller and I do at the Social Skills Center, really every single day. We teach life skills to increase your ability to connect with those around you and bring you success in your life. Regardless of your age, regardless of your level of education, your profession, regardless, we teach essential life skills. So 2 weeks ago was part 1 of the webinar on stepping up your game. This is what we learned. First, we learned to smile and make immediate eye contact with those we interact with. Why? Because a smile is welcoming and eye contact is consistent with social confidence. We learned that neat appearance and appropriate hygiene are essential in the social world. Why? It's true and it's unfortunate, but people judge a book by its cover. People will form opinions about you within 7 seconds of seeing you. It has nothing to do with how smart you are. It's what your appearance is. We learn to always be respectful and to never criticize. Why? Because respecting others will lead you to social success. And finally, we learn to remember people's names. Why do you remember someone's name? Because calling someone by their name is powerful. It makes them feel good. So for those of you that were with us 2 weeks ago, I'd given you all a homework assignment. I'd asked you to practice those skills for 2 weeks until today. So I really hope you're able to do so, because if you did, I'm certain you made positive strides. Good for you. Keep it up. Let's get to part 2. All right. I'm going to start part 2 with this, which is so important and so vital. Be genuinely interested in other people. Be genuinely interested in other people. This, to me, this is the key factor in connecting with others. It's how you make them feel. If you're genuinely interested in someone else, they're going to feel good. Please sit back and take a minute to think about previous conversations you've had with others who were more into themselves, we'll say, about how successful they are in their careers, about how good they are at whatever activity they do, about, I'm going to gag on this one, how smart and talented their honor roll kids are. This is how people communicate. It's true. As you know, I have a story for everything. Years ago, the phone company did a study. Other than the word the and the word what do you think? What do you think, if you're listening out there? What is the most used word that the telephone company heard used other than the or What's the most used word on the phone? I'm sure you get it. I. The word I. First I did this, and then I did this, and then I did this, and I did this, and my day was this. It's all about me. And this has gotten worse over the years. That was decades ago that the phone company did that study. It's gotten worse over the years. I had a really fortunate experience over 20 years ago to a time off from school. So I decided to take a couple months off and backpack through Europe. Great experience, had an awesome time. When I was in Paris, I pulled out my camera, I took a picture of the Eiffel Tower. When I was in Switzerland, I'm like, woo, the Alps. You don't see that here in the United States. So you point your camera way up, but you take pictures of these beautiful things. Nowadays, when people go to Europe, what do they take a picture of in Europe? They pull out their phone, selfies, click, click, selfies, click, click. They may have the Eiffel Tower in the background. You may see a little piece of the Alps past their head, but the picture's all about them. The selfies, it's a me society. And the whole concept really of social media is I want you to know what I'm doing 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. This is the path I took when I was on my walk. This is what I did after I did this. After I cooked dinner, I went to the bathroom. On and on. It's a me world. The great Dale Carnegie in 1936 wrote my favorite book of all time, How to Win Friends and Influence People. I'm sure many of you that are watching right now have read this book. You see, Dale was a smart guy. Dale truly understood the human condition. He was an expert at relating with others. Here's a great story of Dale and how he was able to relate with people. He was invited to a dinner party by one of his friends. And he went to this dinner party not knowing a soul. He sat at a table and struck up a conversation with the gentleman next to him. He was really good socially. So he strikes up this conversation and finds out that the guy next to him is a botanist. A botanist. Could have been worse. It could have been a psychologist, but it was a botanist. Anyway, throughout the dinner party, he's talking with the botanist about, of all things, botany, because the botanist kept the conversation about him. All right. At the end of the dinner party, the host comes by the table and says, and the botanist says to the host, "Your friend Dale here is the most interesting conversationalist, and he knows so much about botany." What is Dale thinking? Dale's thinking, know a lot about botany. His exact quote is, "I know about as much of the anatomy of a penguin than I do about botany." Now, he didn't say this. Obviously, he's thinking this in his head, but what's the point? What's the point? He took a genuine interest in the botanist. I guarantee he asked wonderful follow-up questions, engaging questions that kept the conversation flowing and kept the botanist happy talking about botany. I don't know if the conversation ever turned to Dale and what he did. Probably didn't, knowing Dale. He kept the conversation on the other person, a genuine interest on the other person, which led to the other person connecting with him. Wonderful story. But at the same time, it's got to be genuine. If you're a little more on the selfish, self-centered side, it's going to require more practice. Here's how you do it. Here are my tips. Number one, listen to others. You got to listen to other people. We'll get into specifics in that one in a second. But allow them to talk about themselves. It's okay. It's okay. Don't purposely turn the conversation to focus on you. Be more modest with your successes. No need to brag. No need to boast. Let the other people do that. Keep the conversation on them. Secondly, another thing to do to be genuinely interested in other people is to remember them. And again, I had my phone up before, but in this world of technology, there's a calendar function on your smartphone. So your anniversary with your wife, some guys not so good at remembering stuff like that, put it in your phone. Set a reminder to remember your wife, your secretary's birthday, a special thing with a colleague. Mark those things in your calendar. Let the calendar in your smartphone do the work. It'll send you an alert and make sure you acknowledge it. About maybe 5 years ago, my wife and I, we had to update our wills. And you do it with an attorney here in Virginia, and it's the type of attorney that you see like maybe once every 10 years, maybe at most. But this lady, she must have, I don't know if she read Dale's book, but she clearly followed these principles. We got the feel and the vibe, and we only maybe saw her 2 times, maybe 3 times to finish our wills. But she was genuinely interested in us. And knowing full well that we wouldn't see her again for 10 years or more, she still, every year on my birthday, her name is Lynn, I get a handwritten birthday card from Lynn, as does my wife. Handwritten. It's genuine. She means it. And I'll be honest, it's the type of thing where I'll be like, it's near my birthday. I wonder when Lynn's birthday card is coming. I actually think about it. It's genuine. It's from the heart. That's that genuine interest in other people. So for those of you in the workforce, here's my recommendation. Take an interest in your colleagues. Learn about them. In your community, take an interest in your neighbors. Have conversations with them. Get to know them. Talk about them. If you're a parent, learn about what your child likes. Yes, yes, yes. Even if it's video games, and especially, I guess, even if it's Fortnite for you parents that know the Fortnite, and then do more. Learn the lingo. If your kid plays Fortnite, ask them, where do you drop in? Oh, what are the differences in this season compared to the last season? My favorite. What's your favorite skin that you wear? Well, what type of skin? It brings me back. That piece brings me back to my childhood. And my brothers and I were, all of us played hockey. And I remember very well with my parents who took a lot of time to learn about the game. We'd be driving home from hockey. We'd talk about offsides, face-offs, icing, breakaways, pulling the goalie. My little brother was a goalie, but my parents knew all the terminology. So we were able to connect and relate because they were genuinely interested in what we did. Dale Carnegie said, you can make more friends in 2 months by becoming interested in other people than you can in 2 years by trying to get other people interested in you. Be genuinely interested in other people. Next slide. I had mentioned about the listening. We're going to get to it right now. So my first question to all you out there, it's an interesting one. Take a moment and assess your own listening skills. How many of you out there think you're a great listener? Now, normally, I've only been doing the webinars now for maybe the past 3 or 4 months. Normally, I'd speak to live audiences. When I ask it a live audience, raise your hand if you think you're a great listener. It's like asking a bunch of guys, do you think you're a great driver? It's like every hand goes up because like every guy in the world thinks they're an awesome driver. Like all these hands go up, like everyone thinks they're a great listener. And okay, maybe you think you do, or maybe you think you are. But take a moment and sit back again. Here is the true test. Here is the way to assess if you're an awesome listener. Okay? In a conversation, when you're going back and forth with someone, when someone is talking, are you already forming your response in your head before they finish speaking? If that's the case, and I think most of you will be putting your hand down now because many people are guilty of that, obviously. If you're already forming your response, then by my definition, then by the definition of the experts, then you're not an exceptional listener. A long time ago, we lived in a townhome community that was in a cul-de-sac. And it wouldn't be unusual for the adults, the kids would be playing around in the cul-de-sac, but it wouldn't be unusual for the adults to congregate on a Friday and, have a beer and just talk about life or talk about whatever, your week or whatever. One of the neighbors was a single mom with a little girl. And she was widely known as being a talker who never listened, in that she would go on and on and on and on and on and on about herself. And it was nearly impossible to get a word in edgewise. Now, she was like the nicest person in the world. She would give you the shirt off her back if you asked her for it. She was, just such a great person. So the people in the community were very tolerant of her and very accepting of her. She did get a nickname, though. She was kind of known as, people called her 95.5. That's what they called her, 95, because 95% of the time she'd be talking and 5% of the time she'd give you a chance to get in a quick response. So being the social skills guy, I always wondered, I know people, like I said, in the community were nice and tolerant, but in the workplace, if her colleagues were on a Monday morning sitting around the coffee pot talking about, football scores or whatever, and this woman rounded the corner, did the whole group disperse? Did everyone like, oh, here she comes? And everyone went, because that's what happens when you talk a lot is people don't want to engage with you. Everybody thinks that the most socially gifted people are the ones with the gift of gab. It's simply not true. In fact, most people find the people with the gift of gab annoying because they don't listen. Um, uh, the most socially gifted people, first and foremost, are exceptional listeners. That's where it starts. Starts here, not here. But at the same time, I should add this. Good listening is not synonymous with being silent. So I want to say that too. So how do you do it? Number one, go back to what I just said. Try to stop formulating your response while the other person is talking, okay? And what I would do is pretend you're gonna have to repeat what the other person is saying to somebody else. You'll listen more intently that way. A really good example of this, I think everyone out there has probably been through this. If anyone has ever asked you to accompany them to a doctor's appointment because they want another set of ears to hear what the doctor is saying, many people have been down that with a loved one or a neighbor or with anything. So they'll say, hey, can you please join me so I can, because I might miss it. And then you'll go and you'll sit there and put yourself in this position right now. You will listen intently in that situation to every word the doctor says, knowing that you may have to repeat it back to your friend who's the patient. You may have to repeat the information back to another family member or a loved one. That's how you listen all the time with others. It's a perfect example of what to do all the time. Goes without saying, again, don't interrupt people. Wait for a natural pause, then jump in. I'm sure you're all familiar with active listening, where you're making eye contact with the individual, nodding your head to acknowledge that you're hearing what they're saying. And then really the hallmark of great listening is paraphrasing back to the person what you heard them say. So they finish, there's a pause. So what I heard you saying is, and then you fill in the blank. This leads to the other person feeling heard and understood. And that's what it's all about. I think people mind less if you agree or disagree with them. People want to feel heard and people want to feel understood. Exceptional listeners have the ability to do that, which increases the likelihood of connecting with others. And while it's not your job to help other people become better listeners, that's actually my job. While it's not your job to help other people be better listeners, you can help that. And this is how you do that. By keeping your communication with somebody else short and sweet. My attention span, like most of you out there, my attention span is 30 seconds or less. So if you can keep your communication to 30 seconds or less, I'm going to be a better listener with you. If you go kind of like 95.5 did and go on and on and on, at some point after 30 seconds, I might be shaking my head because I'm a nice guy, but my mind is, oh, what activity do I have to bring my kids to? What's on my grocery list? What are my weekend plans? So you can help other people by keeping your communication 30 seconds or less. Ralph Nichols, an author, said this about being an exceptional listener. Right on your slide, he said the most basic of all human needs is the need to understand and be understood. What I just said. The best way to understand people is to listen to them. Wonderful quote. I hope I'm not going too fast. We have 2 more to do. All right. Here's a big one in this day and age. Admit wrongdoings quickly. The slide really should say admit wrongdoings, a period. Just admit if you made a mistake. But I'm going for it all here. I'm going for the home run. Let's admit our wrongdoings and let's admit them quickly. It's not my fault. How many times have you heard that? I didn't do it. How many times have you heard that? And my all-time favorite, he made me do it. He made me. Really? How did he make you do it? I get that one all the time. Kids say that. He made me do it. 2020, very little accepting of any responsibility. Very little accepting of any responsibility. Now, why is this? I mean, you all know why. People want to protect their egos. People People want to avoid shame. They want to not be embarrassed. That's why this goes on. And so what happens in these situations is when you deny responsibility, when you don't accept it, those around you at home, in the workplace, people are smart. People are smart. They know when you make a mistake. They know you messed up. They know you erred. It's so important to accept responsibility from a social standpoint and from a connection standpoint, because when you don't, it's like getting the Heisman Trophy. People are going to be like, stay away from that person. Here's what we do about it. And this is short and sweet and simple. We all have to understand and accept that we're human. We are flawed. Let's all just accept it. We're all going to make mistakes. I think it's courageous to turn to somebody else, your spouse, another family member, a friend, and ask for open feedback about you. And to hear them, to listen, going back to the other one, to hear what they're saying and understand it. And then to look in the mirror and at least attempt to acknowledge it. That's what's going to lead to behavior changes. Hearing other people, understanding where they're coming from, looking in the mirror, accepting that, acknowledging it, then that will lead to change. It's important to start with admitting that we're all flawed and that we all make mistakes. A technique that I'm going to recommend to parents out there that are working with kids or teachers that are working with young students, you're going to get a lot of denial of responsibility from young kids. It's kind of par for the course for the age, but again, in 2020, it kind of seems like it's worse than it used to be. All I do with kids that I coach is I ask for a little smidgen of responsibility. Okay, just a smidgen. Maybe not all this, but just give me this. Because if you can accept this, if you can accept 1% of whatever that issue or that problem or that drama is, that can lead to change. Accept this piece and change it. Then maybe the next time we can try to get them to accept this piece, and so on and so forth. Always try to get a child to accept a little piece of responsibility, because that's going to lead to change. Dean Smith, for those of you in the basketball world, was a former college NCAA basketball coach from North Carolina. What do you do with a mistake? He told this to his basketball players: recognize it, admit it, learn from it, and then forget it. Learn from it, don't do it again, and then put it out of your mind. I love that one. Dean Smith is a legendary classic coach. Admit your wrongdoings and admit them quickly. And last, but certainly not least, so this is going to be in both parts. This is going to be number 8. Improve your small talk. Improve your small talk. So picture this. You're going to an event. It could be a work event. It could be a social event. It doesn't really matter. There's going to be a lot of people there, and maybe you only know a few people that are there, or maybe you don't know anyone that's going to be there. So your anxiety's up. Naturally, why wouldn't it be? You're going into a situation with, you don't know what to anticipate. So what do? You do what everyone else does. You show up fashionably late. You walk in. You kind of have your head down. You see that all the little groups of people talking have already formed. So you're like, oh, what do? You put your head down and you walk over to the buffet, or you walk to the bar, and then you stand there and you get your glass of wine and you kind of get your head up a little bit, praying someone's going to come up to you, hoping someone's going to engage you or start the chat with you. You take a passive approach to it. Again, we've all been there. But again, it doesn't have to be that way. And I'm going to come in with the small talk, right with the solutions. Here's the solution for this. It involves a changing of your mindset when it comes to engaging with new people and with small talk. I'm going to ask you, and this takes practice. I would never expect you to be proficient with this skill right away. but I'm going to ask you, if this is you, that the person I just described is you, and you're like that, the next time you go to an engagement, the next time you go to a function, never again will you be the one to sit back and wait for others to come to you. Instead, change your mindset and go in to be the one, you be the one to take responsibility of finding those shy people that were just like you used to be. Find them to make them feel comfortable, to walk in with a purpose and a mission. Because if you walk in this way and you enter fashionably late and you look around and you scan with your head up, you're going to notice those people. They're going to be the people like I described, someone who might be sitting at the bar all by themselves with their head down with a glass of wine. You're going to scan the periphery of the room, looking for someone who might be standing by themselves. And you're going to go in to these functions with the game plan of, my job is to make those people feel more comfortable. When you walk up to someone that's like that, you will put such a smile on their face. They'll be like, whoo, someone came up to me and talked to me. They're always there in functions like that. There's always going to be shy people, people that don't feel comfortable starting the chit chat, starting that small talk. Find those people, engage in them, chat with them, make them feel comfortable, and then move on and find another person. That's just like that. It's really, the message here is we take power and control and we switch from a passive response to an assertive response. Again, I get that that's going to take practice, but when you change your mindset with this, you will change your life. Here are some small talk techniques that are going to help you with it. All right. I regularly say that the most successful people socially out there know a little bit of information about a lot of different things. So if I'm at a function or I'm at a dinner party with my wife and I'm talking to somebody that I don't know, if the Buffalo Bills, that's the football team, I'm from Buffalo, so if the Buffalo Bills get brought up, cool, I can talk a lot about that. If quilting, I always use this because it's a funny example to me, I hope none of you are quilters. If quilting gets brought up, hey, I don't know a whole lot about it, but let me ask you, just like Dale did with the botanist, let me ask you engaging questions about it. Well, what do you quilt? What sort of stitching do you use? Do you buy your fabric at Joann's Fabrics? What sort of patterns do you use? Can you pull out your phone and show me some of your quilts? What do you do with them? Do you give them away? Do you hang them on a wall? If you know a little bit of information about a lot of different things, you will do wonderful things socially. A whole nother tip I have is speaking about going out and attending a function. Most people will spend 15 minutes, 20 minutes, some people, maybe even people in my house, an hour getting ready with making their hair nice, the makeup nice, the right outfit, the right shoes, and so on and so forth. That's cool. That's cool. But those same people will spend 0 minutes preparing for conversation. Before I go out, I'll spend time picking out my clothes and trying to look all nice too, but I will go to my computer before I go out. My homepage just happens to be MSN because that's just what it's always been. But if your homepage is CNN or Yahoo, Fox News, doesn't really matter. I prefer if it wasn't TMZ, although you'll get a lot of information on Kim and Kanye if you do that. But if go to your homepage or go to a news source or even your local, ABC News or whatever, and scan all the different headlines. I call this arming yourself with information. So I just did that right before I came on with you guys. I scanned information on the Republican National Convention. I checked the box on politics. Obviously, the big news today is Hurricane Laura, and where obviously our thoughts are with those people. The hurricane now is, when I last looked, is up through the northern part of Louisiana. So our thoughts are with those folk. But that's a news thing. If you follow sports, in the NBA, there were playoff games canceled because of Black Lives Matter stuff yesterday. That's huge news. The stock market continues to thrive. So you arm yourself with information. So what I do is I pick three hot topics of what's going on currently, and I store them in my head. And when I'm talking with someone or a group of people, if there's a lull or one of those uncomfortable pauses, then I'll turn to one of my hot topics. And the beauty of these three topics is after I'm done with this group and move on to engage in another group or talk to somebody else, I can recycle and reuse those same three topics. So many people go to a function thinking, oh, what do I say? What do I bring up if I feel uncomfortable and no one's talking? Arm yourself. Those are your three go-tos. But I've got more for you. Because if you use your three go-tos and you run out, you're like, oh, now what do I say? Go back to one of these things. These are the old standbys. So what's been keeping you busy lately? People will jump on that. People will jump on that because that's their ability to talk about them, like we said before. Or similarly, what's been putting a smile on your face lately? The conversation will quickly turn to them or that individual and what they do for fun. And then, just like Dale did with the botanist, is we're going to continue to, or I did with the quilting, continue to ask engaging questions to keep that flow and that conversation going. And finally, when all else fails, you've used your three go-tos that you learned from current events, and you've already asked them about what's been putting a smile on their face. Here's my final technique, and some of you may know this, some of you might not, but I love this technique. It's called parroting, and it's called parroting because what does a parrot do? A parrot repeats what you say. Polly, want a cracker? Polly, want a cracker? That's what a parrot does. It repeats what you say. So with this technique, all you have to do is repeat the last few words that the other person says, but do so in question format. So I'm going to give you an example. Liz, a true story. Last week, my family and I took a vacation out to the Outer Banks of North Carolina, and we stayed at a beach house it's called Hatteras, which is a very nice southern place in the Outer Banks. But so if I were engaging someone and I said, yeah, we were in the Outer Banks last week, we stayed in a beach called Hatteras. If the other person didn't know what to say, they could parrot. They say, oh, you stayed in a beach in Hatteras? All they did was repeat the last three words I say with a question format. I say, yeah, we had a really nice house. The views were phenomenal. And they say, oh, cool. The views were phenomenal? That's all they're doing. And I'd say, yeah, my youngest daughter and I, we got up at 6 in the morning to watch the sunrise. It had this pinkish, beautiful hues. And then the person says, oh, wow, it had those pinkish, beautiful hues. And then it keeps on going. All you're doing is you're repeating the last three or four words that they said in question format. It is an old standby. Use it because it is one of the best techniques to keep the conversation going. Now, everybody tells me this. You're probably all thinking this too. That's so simple. Won't the person know what you're doing? No, they won't know what you're doing. Trust me. They'll have no idea what you're doing. It'll keep the conversation going. And it maintains that genuine interest in the other person. Right. Improve your small talk. Deborah Fine, she's an author. She does some public speaking too. I love this quote. Small talk is the verbal equivalent of that first domino in a line of dominoes. It starts a chain reaction with all kinds of implications for your life. I guarantee you, small talk for many people has been life-changing because that's how you meet people that you never would meet. And you engage them and business opportunities arise, love potentially arises, and so on and so forth. Improve your small talk. Really important and essential life skill. One of the first times I didn't mess up the slides in recent memory. So success to me. It's amazing. Usually I mess it up. In conclusion, I want to say this. Just like that parroting technique that I just mentioned, I've always loved simple, straightforward techniques that you can implement immediately. But as always, practice is the key. Like riding a bicycle, you'll fall off a few times, maybe more than a few times. Get back on, keep trying. Keep trying these techniques again and again because it will foster success in your life. Now, a real quick summary of part one and part two. These are the necessary, the essential skills needed for you to step up your game and truly be successful with others. Remember this, remember these things. People love to talk about themselves and what their interests are, so let them do it. People need to feel respected, so respect them and value them. People like it when you use their name. Work hard to remember people's names. People feel good after a genuine compliment. Provide it. People appreciate kindness, obviously, so commit to being kind. People love being noticed. Give immediate eye contact, smile at them so they can feel noticed. And finally, people want to be heard. Actively listen to them, then ask some thoughtful follow-up questions to engage them. You guys are going to find a recording of this webinar, part two, up on the website later this afternoon. Thank you, Jennifer, for that. If you missed part one, again, please go to the website. It's on YouTube, but you can access it via the website right now. As always, we appreciate your referrals at the Social Skills Center. To learn more about us, please visit us at socialskillscenter.com. I'm always available for questions, comments, any sort of feedback. You can contact me, Dr. Haley at socialskillscenter.com. Please visit us on Facebook. Follow and like our business page. Just search the Social Skills Center and we will come up. And our Facebook group, if you haven't joined it yet, please join the Facebook group. It's a great resource and a wonderful community of social skills. You can see on the slide, it's called Social Skills Circle. All right. I thank everyone for spending, and I kept it under 45 minutes. That's a first for me too. Let me open it up right now for questions. I understand feel free to raise your hand and jump in. I understand last time that a lot of people, some people don't feel comfortable raising their hand, and that's fine. And they just got in touch with me via email. I'm totally fine with that as well. But I'll just wait a minute to see. And if you don't feel comfortable raising your hand, that's fine too. Just go to that Q&A feature and I can always answer questions that way. I found that last time a lot of people, more people asked me questions after the fact and wanted to do so privately, and I'm totally fine with that. And just as I was patient at the start, I'll give people just a few minutes to ask anything that they want. And if not, that's fine too. All right. I guess people are going to ask them privately via email, which is totally fine with me. I'm all tucked out anyway. I'm gonna be back like always. I'm gonna be back 2 weeks from now with another hopefully very engaging and interesting social skills. Oh, we have a question. Let me, here we go. I'll stick with me 1 second. I hope I can get this to work. Hey, John, can you hear me?
Yes. Hi.
What's up, John? How you doing, man?
I'm well, thanks. Let's see here. How can what are some good techniques to have people reciprocate with me?
Mm-hmm. And how to get people to engage. See, I always go back to, John, that people love talking about themselves. And if your goal here, if the goal, John, is to connect with others, if the goal is to connect with others, keeping the conversation on the other person will be very beneficial for you. If we go back, John, to the conversation that Dale Carnegie had with the botanist, he kept, from my understanding of the conversation, although it was back in the 1930s or before that, it was entirely on the botanist, and that's what led to the connection. Is your question more about how do I get people to talk about me?
No.
It's how to keep the conversation going.
Well, just reciprocate with me, because I mentioned to you that sometimes in my experience, I try to show a lot of interest in the other person.
Yes.
But then, I get very, very little back.
Yeah. Do you every now and again, John, try to turn the conversation into a little bit about you and your interests?
Okay.
I know.
Or
Do you? That was a question. Do you do that?
oh, probably not.
Okay.
I try to bridge the gap too much, and I try to
Yep.
extend myself too much, and I'm not expecting them to stretch at all.
Yes. Yeah. And so probably that's what I would do is while I would keep the majority of the conversation on the other person, what I would do is every now and again throw in a comment of, oh yeah, I enjoy doing that as well. Or, oh yeah, my interest is consistent with that too. Because a lot of people, good conversationalists, John, will take that opportunity and run with it and start to do that technique back to you by asking you about yourself and your interests.
Okay.
Does that make
Okay.
sense?
Yes. Yes. Okay. Thank you.
You're very welcome, John. Any other questions?
No.
Okay, great. Thank you for asking. I appreciate you jumping in. All right. Anybody else? Any other questions or things that I can answer for you today? Okay. As always, like I said earlier, I really appreciate everyone attending. I thank you so much for being here. The video of the presentation today will be out on YouTube later this afternoon or later this evening. And hopefully all of you can come join me again 2 weeks from now. Thank you so much. Enjoy the rest of your day. Continue to stay safe out there. Bye, everyone.